So yesterday we started to set up a Rails 5 project, and we went solo. You guys went through these exercises. For today, let's try to do pair programming for the milestone in here. We still believe that, and it's quite proven that if we do this pair programming, this milestone, you code, the other person supervise, and then the next milestone you switch up. I think you'll have a lot of fun with this milestone, a lot of new stuff. But before we get there, I'd like to just have an overview, have some interactive session about what we learned yesterday. So what do we learn about Rails yesterday that we could just throw, just anything, okay? It could be just no particular order. Stan, do you remember anything from yesterday?
Using the Day2 method to...
Okay, so yesterday, for example, that's called a view helper. The link2 method. The syntax of link2 is like this. Hello, and then here's the second one is the URL, right? And this will generate this the HTML. It's just the first option is easier for you to read, and that's more Rails-like. Okay, so you get used to this kind of helper. There are a lot more. You have one that generates a form. This generates a link. So today you learned one that generates a form. Also, there are more options behind here. For example, you can say class is an item link, right? Then down here you have a class item. You have a lot more stuff here. You can turn it into an Ajax link too. There's a Rails way that does that. From today, you will also api.rubyonrails.org. You also start to feel familiar with looking up Rails method. There are just so many of them. But at any point, if you want to learn how something works, you can just go here and search for it, and there's an example for you. Okay? And so, for example, here I go down to the example case, and it's really clear, isn't it? You will get used to this. This is the one argument case, but we'll get used to it. But let's say this is some parameters that get passed. Profiles link is it can just go to /profiles. But that's link2. Link2 even have a link2 do syntax, which is if you put anything in the do, that's a longer part that becomes a link, and you wrap the link around that block. So later on, if you're like, okay, my link2, I need a really big amount of HTML code inside that link, then think about link2 something do. And Ruby is quite powerful because if you look at it, there's no, the first argument is no longer the string, but it's more like the URL you're going to. And then even if you just pass in one object, it knows what URL to go to. So that's the Rails magic that makes it very clean and powerful. Of course, some people may not like it, but it's very nice to learn how it works and apply it to our Rails project. And in the future, you can decide whether that's the best thing for you or not. Let's get another one. Oscar, you have one from yesterday?
MVC. I've heard a lot about it, and now I have some idea of how it works.
Yeah, so we learned MVC. Oscar shared a 20-minute video. I shared a 4-minute video. I thought each of them could be just something you can just just sit back and see what other people try to explain it. I also had the slides that attempt to break it down, but only on view and controller yesterday. So I get more on the model stuff. All right. So just remember that in this case, controller prepare the data for you, and the view present the data. Luis? Yeah. So you get excited about the scaffold generator, even though that's not the main thing yesterday. It's just a preview. So Rails has a lot of generators. In Rails, you can generate a model. And so let's say you have a model called a list. You have a name. Um, in this is the syntax. But if you don't put a column, it's automatically name, a string. So Rails, I'm just put something that's a little easier, just more specific. Age is a number, right? So that you can do string, but Rails can generate that a model, which we will learn today. We haven't used model yet. We can have a controller. So let's say if I have a model person, I tend to use the plural name. So I call it people controller. And so you can actually only call it people, and then you can write uppercase or small case, it's okay. And then here you can put in the action. So I have a people, and maybe I can create a new person. So this is the controller with two actions like that. And you could even Rails generate views. Normally no one really write that. It just touch, create a view file. Why don't you just go and create it yourself? This class, person class, and the people controller class, they inherit from something else, so it's kind of nice not having to type them. Okay, so these are the things you would use the most, these two. However, you will also have Rails generate scaffold, which you just do like everything. You enter a very similar syntax, but this one, let's say a model, and then with some attributes, what columns, and then it will just generate all the views, the controllers, the routes for you. Now this is only nice to first start it. It's actually very bad later on, because if you write the code yourself, it's just cleaner, easier to change. If you generate a lot of code and you change it, it's very hard to keep track of. What some other people want to use sometimes is Rails generate resource, and it actually create like a model and an empty people controller. So resource, it will actually this will be model and controller. This will be model, controller, view, route stuff. So normally we want to be in charge of the view ourselves. Yesterday you see how ugly the view is. So this is what will be full controller actually. Oops. But here is actually an empty controller. We will try this. And these two we use the most. So generators are very awesome. You actually can generate a lot of test files as well. We will learn the test stuff later on. Okay. Ian. Rows. Routes here, or route. People have different way to call it. So you like the route thing? And Rails come with a few convention. This is the syntax. The syntax, they think it's the cleanest to do it this way. So if you go to about page, then you could say what controller, and so you can say I have a home controller about action. Or if I go to maybe a say hello here, then this one will be understood as say controller hello action. So the pound here, it's just this second part. This second part looks the same. So Rails can just say, oh, let's do split with a slash, and then the first part will be a controller, and the second part will be a action name. So this will be default too. All right. But do remember there's a root thing. So for example, if you want to do I don't know, block index, for example, a block website. So block controller index action. You want this, then it means visiting slash will get routed to block controller index action, right? You tend to see this pound. It means this is the class name, and this is the method name. That's the short way in Ruby we call it. Sometimes I've used it in the past. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but I could call something like, oh, implement the list display method like that. If I call list.loadAll method, that's a class method. This method works for all of this, but if it list display, then it means I'm asking you to implement so I can use list.display like this. This is an instance method. Regular method, like def method name inside class. That's just a quick side routes. All right, quick. Okay, so it's related. Okay, I think here you mentioned controller. I need you guys to remember this. First, take any controller. I will type this kind of code often. Let's say I have, yesterday I have a controller. I say, let's say files controller, okay? What you normally don't have to worry about is that it inherits from this application controller. And there is an application controller file. Right now we don't touch it. That's the first thing. Second, if I have this def index in here, okay? And the route tell me to go, remember, route tell me to go files here, index. It means visiting the root will get this to this page. What I need you all to remember is that it's as if you call render here. Render, you can call render like this, it works the same way, but Rails will call it for you. Just like in Ruby, if you put 1, 2, 3 there, it will return it for you, but Rails always call render after the action for you, except when you want to redirect. So if you want to redirect, for example, if you say parens, for example, next, if someone wants to go to, someone is trying to go to the root of my computer, I'm not going to show all the files. Then I will say redirect to root path. If that person, if the params next is legitimate, then I render index again. Remember when you click to go next? What if someone hacked the URL and tell me to go to my hard drive, like var, user? They want to go somewhere dangerous, right? Yep.
Do I really need render index here?
Absolutely good question. So in this case, you definitely can just delete it, and that part will get run over here, and again automatically render as well. But this redirect is automatically returns and not run render. Okay, so that's something new. And one more thing new is params now you can start using symbol. Ian, anything we learned yesterday that you can think of? Excellent, thank you very much. So path, we actually call this route helper. Oh, this is awesome, guys. Basically, if you have a Rails app and you have all these routes, so if I do get say hello, right, there is a convention. Rails create something called say underscore hello underscore path variable. And it's kind of weird after a while to understand how they name it. If you go into localhost 3000, remember when you go to any random page and then it will actually display you the path so far. There's another trick. Sometimes you don't want to see this error, it looks ugly there. You type rails/info. It's a nicer version that displays the routes and it displays the priority as well. So of course this is a different project that you implement today, and here you can even search for that. So for example, I have, of course, everything here is photo, but I can search for them using this match. Rails provide a ton of powerful stuff. If you look at a big project, there will be hundreds of routes, and then this thing will filter that for you nicely. So thank you. These are called route helper, and it looks similar. In these are view helpers. There are a lot, but you try one. It's called link to, and down here you have route helper, and then you can have say hello path. One extra thing about it is that beside this name, it's actually a method. When you call it, it's like you call this method. Okay? So how do you call it? In Ruby, when you call this without parentheses, you keep it like this. But you can always say hello path, and then you pass in the name. So you can pass in a hash, like, then this is the name that will get passed in the URL. So this one will create a string. This method, what string do you get back? /hello, right? This method, /hello, go to school. Okay? So you actually releasing, and you're opening a lot of magic here. So in this case, for example, age is 25. Then pretty much you add another thing here. Age is 25. Okay. Does anyone remember the form.serialize method? You only use serialize array, which return you an array of JavaScript objects, right? If you take a form and you serialize, it will look like exactly like this string. Do I have a form somewhere? And I can show you form.serialize. Yeah, I don't think I have a form in here. So what's a web page that I have log in, log out? Maybe I will try to serialize it. Is there a sign in here? Oh, it's only one though. It's okay, we'll try. So let's say we take this guy. Is that jQuery? Yay, it's jQuery. And so if I select this, is there a form? So I'll just select form. Oh, this guy has a login form. Let's click on it. Oh, that's great. That's my login form. So you can see, say, serialize array here. jQuery has that method. And you actually see that it submit 3 objects. First one is just encoding. This is another Rails website, so this comes by default. UTF, it's just saying the encoding. Return to, if you try to visit another page, and then you go to, but then you don't have access, they take you to this page, but they will set a value return to, so that after you log in, it will take you to this URL. But I visit this page directly, so return to is nothing. And then the third one is credentials. So this is the username thing, params, credentials, username. Okay, so for example, but there is a serialize method, then it does that. So UTF, this is a Unicode symbol for the check, and then there's an N, and then the second key value, which is an empty string, nothing there, and then N and credentials. 5D here is the square bracket, 5D is the open. So you see it's pretty much the same thing. That's the idea when you combine all the queries into one string. It's like that. Okay? It's like putting this in the get request, right? Copy and paste that and put in get request. When you submit to Ruby, the way that form is submitted via post is different. But Ruby takes care of that. It parses the information view. The way it's submitted in the get is different. and Ruby takes care of it for you. It parses the string for you. The reason why we use array here, because we are not giving to Ruby directly. We pass it to another function, like the Ajax function. Okay, when you submit to Ruby, it has to be, the server actually submit the string. But here you do serialized array because you need to pass this data object into the Ajax, jQuery Ajax function. Remember that? Cool. So I think it's really useful, right? We review some of the core syntax and some useful stuff we learned yesterday. Is there anything else someone can think of? The ERB stuff is fine. Remember the URL here. Anything else? Well, there's a bit of logic. Why is it displaying so bad here? All right. So are we ready for today's stuff? This stuff is new yesterday. I will explain this today. So this is the optional milestone. Okay. So that is MV. There's no, VC. There's no M. And let's take a look at a model. And the concept of model is that we're storing it to the database. So Rails has everything set up by default for you. I'm going to pull out yesterday's project. I'll just take maybe lab 4-2. Is there anything in there? I think this is the one today. Was yesterday one? Yeah. 4-1. Okay, let's take this project. So what have we done so far? Let's look at the routes. We look at the routes and we have this list. And then I added something called list here. It was also added because I ran the scaffold. Just thinking, what if I should just stop doing to-do list? It's a bit boring. Should we do a better app example? All right, let me maybe work on the homework, a new homework. This is the note so far for this week. I updated the portal. And as usual, you just work through the lab. So today you work through this 4.2 lab. Here's the homework that is similar to the Ruby on Rails bootcamp. The evening class for experienced people. So this week, our homework is to create a restaurant app. And it's in this restaurant app. It's actually an ordering system app. So you can add any dish you want, add to a cart, the order, so you can check out. And of course, if you finish, you can add the feature to send an email, to send a text message, to confirm if someone wants to book, buy a few things. So this is the menu ordering system. I will walk through the first part of this, and then over the next few days, every day we do a little bit. So by Friday, you become very comfortable to work through the main required features, and you can push yourself through some additional ones. And of course, if you don't want to work on the additional ones, that's okay too. Here's some example of the past apps by our past students. So imagine you have a restaurant website. It shows some of the dishes. Obviously, we generate some random pictures, so you see some of them don't really look like food. You have rating, you have commenting, and that is one example. Here's another one. You can use different CSS framework. This is the material design framework, so the button look a little different. And this is this is the Bootstrap framework. So you don't have to reinvent how you style your button, how to create these drop down. Okay, so think about your favorite layout for a restaurant menu ordering system. Okay, so this is how it works if you want to add something. Of course, don't worry. This is like, some of these guys have experience. So just to give inspiration, we don't have to do it all the way. Just do what we can. Yeah. So searching, sorting, it kind of reminds us of the to-do app last time. Except this one we work with the database directly. Okay. So when is the homework due? Homework due is Sunday. Aim for 10 p.m. But if you're late, an hour or two that night, just let me know. But definitely, I want to wake up seeing all the assignment submitted, because that will allow the class to move on. So definitely, just do your best there. So let's look at the app. I leave it right here. Actually, I'm gonna close the review video. I'll start a new one.